Hey everyone, today's video is the first in a series summarizing my favorite supplies of 2020. These are supplies I used repeatedly and love. They fit my taste and style of painting. I will try to explain why I enjoyed each one and how I like to use it. I would love to read about your favorite watercolors this year and which new discoveries you made. If you're new here, welcome! My name is Irit and I'm a watercolor and mixed media artist. I think watercolors are the most beautiful of painting mediums and they have a calming and therapeutic effect. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a like and leave a comment. Also, subscribe and ring the bell. I post new videos every week. I also invite you to visit my website. I offer a free comprehensive watercolor shopping guide. Have you always wanted to learn how to paint with watercolors? Join me in an online workshop wherever you are in the world or your watercolor journey and start painting today. Now let's get back to today's topic. Today's video is dedicated to my most used and loved watercolors. The following videos will focus on other supplies such as paper, brushes, and mixed media. I will mention the brand as well as the color, but please check online for swatches to see if your preferred brand, one that is local and affordable to you in your part of the world, has a version of it. I have a lot more information about that in my shopping guide. You can find links to everything below. I thought it would be easiest to go by the color wheel, so let's start with yellows. Daniel Smith Nickel Azo Yellow is a lovely bright transparent yellow that still has some earthiness to it. It is one of my go-to yellows. It creates beautiful oranges and corals when mixed with any of my pinks and earthy greens, when mixed with blues or even very blue purples. Naples Yellow has been very loved here this year. I enjoy the Schminke version as it is the most pastel I have found, but I will be switching to a vegan alternative by My Mary Blue. They have a couple of versions. I like the one numbered 104. If you prefer Daniel Smith, their Nickel Titanite Yellow is a similar, although a tad cooler yellow. I will make an honorable mention of Quinacridone Gold, the Daniel Smith one, as it has come back into my palette recently after I replaced it with Nickel Azo Yellow. It is more orangey, but just as lovely. It is a great yellow for nature, flowers, and landscapes, as it makes natural earthy greens when mixed with French ultramarine or lunar blue. I really prefer mixing my own oranges and hardly ever use a bright orange from a tube, but this orange worked wonders for me and was one of my 2020's happy discoveries. Lucas Naples Yellow Red has captured my heart. It is a muted, semi-opaque orange that is lovely on its own, but wonderful for mixing corals and peachy colors with any pink. I haven't seen anything similar by other brands, and I will be purchasing a tube once my full pan is empty. Thankfully, Lucas, it's a German brand, is very affordable in Europe and comes in big 24 milliliter tubes. 2020 also marked a much heavier use of opaque colors in my artwork as my style developed, and I found they work well with my older transparent faves. I've had Jaune Brilliant number 2 in my collection for a few years, but I fell in love with it only in 2020. I have the Shinhan PWC version, Professional Watercolors version. It is a warm pastel peachy color that is unique and pretty. I have used it less since introducing Lucas Naples Yellow Red to my palette. Let's move on to pinks, my precious pinks. Pinks have always been essential for my artwork. I mostly paint loose abstract florals, and my favorite colors of flowers to paint are variations of pink. I'll go by order of the color wheel from reddish pinks to bluish ones. Shell pink is a flesh toned pink that is opaque. I have the Shinhan Pass version, which is marketed as a gouache watercolor hybrid paint. Unlike some gouache, it doesn't crumble and fall out of the pan or palette once dry and is extremely affordable. Quinacridone Rose is a staple in my palette, although I have been neglecting it a little now that I have discovered Van Gogh's Carmine, not shown in the video. It is still a beautiful pink and a great primary to include in a limited palette. I am sad to say not all quinacridone roses were created equal, and some versions are not as lively as others. My current favorite is Daniel Smith, and I've yet to find one I love as much. It makes beautiful oranges, coral, peaches with any of my yellows, and neutralizes my greens. My most loved and disappointing pink is Holbein's Bright Rose. Other brands make similar versions. Check out my favorite pinks video. It is a bluish pink that is luminous and perfect. It makes the most gorgeous mixes with any of my yellows and oranges. It is, however, not only fugitive, but also doesn't scan and print well, probably due to the fluorescent pigments. As I intend to use my artwork more in print, I will have to look for better alternatives, which I haven't found yet. However, for original artwork, videos, or digital images not used for printing, it is perfection. If your budget is tight, you can try Shinhan's Professional Watercolors version of this color. Violet, the color of my dreams. M. Graham's Ultramarine Pink was a joy to use in the spring, although since then I have neglected it a little. It is an earthy violet pink with gorgeous granulations. I haven't tried other brands' versions of this color, but will likely do so in the future as M. Graham is made with honey and in general too gooey for my taste, especially in travel palettes. Cobalt Violet is probably my signature color, and of course it has to be expensive and hard to formulate. It also comes in many versions. Some lean more pink, which I prefer, others blue, which I skip. The best I have found is Winsor & Newton. The color and formula are perfect, but it's not vegan, so I tried Core, which disappointed, and Rembrandt, which was better, but still contains more binder than I would like. Once I run out, I will buy the Rembrandt Pan version. As with problematic colors, pan are a safer choice sometimes with a more stable formula. If you squeeze your two paints into pans and re-wet them, avoid the Daniel Smith version of Cobalt Violet, which is lovely in tone but useless once dry. Cobalt Violet is beautiful in mixes as its strong granulation shines, and I'm particularly enchanted by the colors created when it is mixed with Naples yellow. I don't use any bright or saturated purples out of the tube, but prefer either to mix my own or use darker, more muted options. Stay tuned for those. Lavender is a gorgeous color that more brands are offering now. I enjoy all the versions I have tried. The Daniel Smith one is probably the most transparent one, marked as semi-transparent by the brand, as it is a color formulated with white and can get very opaque. If you're in Europe, it's worth trying Van Gogh's very affordable version. Rembrandt sell 20 milliliter tubes that are also very affordable this side of the Atlantic. I also want to mention that it is very easy mixing your own lavender if you have ultramarine blue and white in your palette. I have those too, but still use lavender often as a convenience color. Blues. I don't get the blues. I honestly tried this year to get better use out of the blues in my collection and failed. I have two I adore and cannot say I need more at the moment. French ultramarine is a classic, and I have fallen in love with it deeply this year. The granulation makes it perfect when you want interesting texture and mixes. It is perfect for natural greens, especially when mixed with orangey yellows like the ones I mentioned. My favorite version right now is Rembrandt. Second and last in this category is Daniel Smith Lunar Blue. This color can be easily mixed if you have Mars or Oxide Black and Phthalo Blue, but I usually don't use Phthalo Blue, so this formula works well for me. It granulates heavily and creates gorgeous mixes. I have a dedicated video to it if you want to see more of it. I love teal and turquoises, but the one I used most this year was Luca's Cobalt Turquoise, as I had a full pan of it. I haven't met a version of this bright teal I don't like. It is named differently in every brand, so make sure you check swatches online before purchasing. Most brands use PG50 for it, but Lucas uses PB28, also used for cobalt blue, and it is the most affordable version I found in Europe. A tube of 24 milliliters costs less than €9. The second half of 2020 was the year of the greens. I generally dislike traditional greens that come in basic sets like hooker's green, sap green, spring green, May green, but I finally found some staples to include in my palette. Daniel Smith's Cascade Green is a beautiful blue green that separates to brown granulation and turquoise. It is quite intense, re-wets beautifully, and just works well with all my other favorites. Daniel Smith's Undersea Green is another winner. Earthy, granulating, and interesting green that I admit I neglected as the next two greens came into my life. Daniel Smith's Olive Green is my new green gold. It has a depth and earthiness to it that I haven't found in green gold, and I enjoy it a lot more. Van Gogh Dusk Yellow is a green to me. Again, you can probably mix this color yourself, but I love it as is, and so enjoy having it as a convenience color in my palette. It is dark and earthy, works wonderfully for foliage and shadows alone or mixed with my other darks. Which leads me to my favorite darks. 2020 was also the year of the darks. I discovered some beautiful deeper colors that I love using. Rembrandt's Dusk Pink or Van Gogh's version have been heavily used. I went through at least 4 half pans and finally bought a big 20 milliliter tube of it. Dark, granulating, separating, but still transparent, it is a joy to use in paintings focused on a pink and green color scheme. Daniel Smith's Moon Glow came back with a vengeance to my palette. I know there was a very popular video made about some light fastness issues. I have seen other tests where it did not fade, so make your own choice. There are other versions by other brands out there, and you can also mix your own. I love Daniel Smith's version and for now enjoy using it. Moon Glow is the perfect moody violet blue, just lovely for shadows and creates great darks when mixed with any other dark colors or deep violets when mixed with pinks. Daniel Smith's Zoazite was another 2020 discovery. It is a heavily granulating version of Perylene green. Deep, dark, bluish muted green that is perfect for foliage and flowers. I adore it, and once I run out of my pan, I will buy a big tube. Daniel Smith's Bloodstone Genuine is another new favorite. This is a granulating black that is transparent, which helps avoid dead, flat darks. It is similar to Lunar Black, but has a slightly different undertone that I struggle to characterize. I will mention Daniel Smith's Lunar Black because I have loved several colors that contain this pigment this year, and so I acknowledge it is a great color to have in your palette. Although the reality is I have been using all the other darks mentioned more than this one. I think all brands offer a version of this color, usually named Mars or Oxide Black. The Daniel Smith one is my favorite. Last but not least, my favorite neutrals. 2020 was kind to them in my world. Previously a bright rainbow gal, I have fallen in love with some neutrals this year that have really enriched my color stories and palettes. I included white in my palettes for the first time ever. Many artists squeeze a bit of fresh white gouache when they want to use white, as it is normally more opaque than white watercolor, but I have found Rembrandt's opaque white rewets wonderfully and doesn't dry and crumble like gouache, so I include a large pan of it in my palettes these days. White paint easily contaminates, so having a large pan and keeping at least one area clean is a good idea. Daniel Smith's Buff Titanium is another favorite. A gorgeous color for making your colors a little less bright, a little muddy in the best way. Two more Daniel Smith lunar colors, Lunar Earth and Lunar Red Rock, were introduced to my palette. I mostly use these for mixing for their incredible granulation. Lunar Earth is a muted, earthy orange, and Lunar Red Rock is more red. It can be an interesting replacement to Venetian Red as it is not as opaque and heavy. I have dedicated videos to these two, but since making those videos I have enjoyed them more. Last but not least is a color I admit I have not used so much, but is so unique I had to mention it. Daniel Smith's Hematite Violet Genuine is hard to describe. It has a muted brown-purple granulation and a soft, almost pinkish base color. Just gorgeous. I'm excited to explore it more with my other favorites. That is it for this year's winners. I hope you enjoyed. I will see you soon in the next video focusing on papers, sketchbooks, and brushes. Take care, stay safe, and go paint. Bye bye.